From the Abrahamic tradition, three beliefs emerge that are now adopted by most of humanity. These three beliefs clash in Jerusalem. Judaism mourns the destruction of its temple and awaits the Messiah in the Promised Land. Christianity calls holy the land where Jesus is said to have been buried. And Islam built Al-Aqsa Mosque, where Muhammad is said to have ascended to heaven. Our sacred texts teach that Abraham had two sons, Isaac and Ishmael. We, the Jewish people, descendants of Isaac, established our kingdom in the Promised Land until we were raptured and subjugated by cruel invaders. The rule of the Roman Empire led to the Great Jewish Revolt, which was brutally crushed. They erased Judea and gave another name to our land, Palestine. For centuries, we lived persecuted around the world, strengthening the Zionist movement, which fights for our return. In the First Great War, a newfound ally renewed our hope. Echoing our cries for statehood, the British Empire promised its support for the creation in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. But when the war was won, they placed their interests above previous promises and divided the territory amongst themselves. As if that were not enough, the promise made to us was also made with other people.
While the descendants of Isaac spread across the world in tribes, we, the Arab people, descended from Ishmael, Abraham's firstborn, migrated through the Middle East until, from Mecca, emerged the one who would guide us, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. With the final revelation, our caliphate conquered continents, broke down borders, and showed the strength of the Islamic truth. For centuries, we shed our blood fighting for the holy city of Al-Quds, where our prophet ascended to heaven. When the First Great War began, the British colonial forces asked for our help, provided in exchange for a promise, the independence of our state. At least, that's what we thought. For we were deceived by the British, who upon winning the war, took possession of our lands and made another oath to the Zionists, bringing discord once again to the holy city.
We were unwelcome in the land of our forefathers, and to make matters worse, another great war broke out. After the atrocities committed in World War II and the attempted genocide that killed 6 million Jews, a promise was made: never again. Finally, the world recognized the need for the Jewish people to have their own country. The United Nations proposed the recognition of the Promised Land as our sovereign state, even if it was just a fraction of it. And to maintain peace, the division of the territory into two independent states, Israel for the Jews and Palestine for the Palestinian Arabs. But the Arabs rejected the proposal.
We could not accept this colonization of our lands by people who came here without our permission.
So, as Israel declared its independence, a 7-nation Arab army declared war against us.
Our neighbors came to the rescue of Palestine against the Zionist invaders supported by European colonizers, to no avail. What Israel came to call independence, truth be told, is the catastrophe of my people, Al-Nakba.
Repeatedly, we managed to defend our existence until Egypt, our strongest neighbor, gave up on war and accepted peace. But not everyone followed their example, and the Middle East continued to exact its price in blood.
With the weakening of our Arab brothers, new resistance movements emerged, willing to martyr themselves to defeat the Zionists. We created the Palestine Liberation Organization with the aim of returning our land to the Palestinian people.
Israel continued to fight against terrorism, signed various agreements, and achieved great victories that led us to believe that fundamentalism was increasingly distant and ultimate peace each day closer. This seemed to be the end of history coming to fruition. Alas, an ominous threat still lurked in the shadows, watching, praying, and preparing.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Yasharet, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malachi ad Malachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu.
Anyone who observes objectively what has been happening in the last generation notices that there is a struggle. Who is going to be the leader of the world of values in humanity? As of now, we are still in the situation where Western culture is the dominant culture in the entire world. Things today are in danger and there's a certain destabilization. The Islamic world is trying to be the leader.
West have given up on Christianity. They've become atheists. And when you give up on your religion, you give up on your history, you give up on your culture, you give up on your past. You essentially have no roots. So it doesn't matter who will be there. Whether it will be a country with a Christian majority, or with a Muslim majority, or any, it doesn't matter. Because they don't bring children into the world. And therefore, they are already looking ahead at a culture that essentially ceased to exist, or at least is about to.
The conflict that is happening in Gaza today is part of the worldwide battle that has been led by US and Western forces.
Palestine is the worst victim of this occupation, with the approval of all the other countries. And the UN Council, the US, Great Britain, France, all of them accept the occupation of our lands. They sponsored the Israeli occupation. in Palestine. That's why we have been resisting so patiently for all these years. The Palestinians are not fighting in vain. The Palestinians are fighting for their freedom, just like any other occupied nation in the world would do.
You see, it's not the Cold War. It's actually a warm-up for the next Great War.
This is the Middle East. This isn't the West. All of the holy sites of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity are here. In the West, there's beer, vodka, whiskey, bars, there's jazz, there's ballet, there's pasta. In the Middle East, you speak in the name of God. You speak in the name of the Old Testament. You speak in the name of the New Testament. You speak in the name of the Quran. You speak in the name of the Bible. You speak in the name of Moses. You speak in the name of Muhammad. You also speak in the name of Jesus Christ. It's a different language.
The conflict here is extremely complicated, and most people want a simple story. And most people also think in terms that are very good for engineers. Problems, solutions. You come to the Middle East, forget about solutions. Let me put it this way. A pluralistic way of life is acceptable by a minority of the human race. The concept of live and let live is not common to the majority of humanity. It is a product of Western civilization to a very large extent. In the Middle East, if somebody is not afraid of you, you must be afraid of him.
What we believe is that we are not just fighting Israel's war. We are actually fighting the war of the entire Western world, a humane and democratic world. We are simply on its front line. We are in a fight against radical Islam, which calls us the little Satan. But see, they call the United States the Great Satan.
And amongst this monumental conflict, Israel finds itself right in the middle. And this unequivocally invites us to offer solutions to the questions of values that humanity nowadays have been facing, I would say, in the entire world.
My name is Einat Wilf. I was born and raised in Jerusalem, in Israel. The 90s in general were this decade of euphoria where it wasn't just in Israel, it was around the world. The Soviet Union just collapsed. The countries of Eastern Europe became free. Apartheid in South Africa came to an end. Northern Ireland signed peace. So there was this mood of peace and change around the world and the end of history. I was euphoric, like so many Israelis of the peace camp.
My name is Yariv Horowitz. I was born in Israel. So many years I was exposed to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in wars in many, many aspects. If there is other way to stay alive and live with peace with our neighbor, that's the big question that was in Israel for many, many years. I made many films during the year. Most of them were pushing for peace, for humanity. Mainly human movies, I hope.
So I was someone who worked with Shimon Peres, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate. I was a member of the Labor Party. I later became a member of Knesset. I was part of the peace camp, supporter of two states. Just give the Palestinians the territory. I supported all that. What was amazing is that I was beginning to listen to what Palestinians were saying, really listen. The Palestinians always told us what they wanted. We just didn't listen, but they told us from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
This is the PLO flag. On this side, we can see the Temple Mount, the Dome of the Rock, and the motto Al-Quds Lana, which means Jerusalem is ours. Since when is Jerusalem a Palestinian city? After all, there was never a Palestinian state or their capital. And the back, Palestine. And this is essentially the map of Israel, of all of Israel. So that means that the idea of creating the country of Palestine includes the plan of abolishing the existence of the state of Israel, from the river to the sea, from the Mediterranean to Jordan.
And in case you wonder, because again, sometimes in English, they like to pretend that Palestine will be free as a neutral idea where everyone lives in harmony. The original wording, before it was translated into English, was from water to water, Palestine will be Arab. No Jews.
من شمالها إلى جنوبها أرضنا وحقنا ووطننا لا تنازل ولا تفريط بأي شبر أو جزء منها.
I was born in 1980, 1 year after the ascension of the Islamic Revolution to power. For 18 years, I lived in the city of Isfahan. For 3 years, I studied civil engineering at Kashan University. You have heard about Kashan University in the papers. It is related to Iran's uranium reactors. One of those reactors is in Kashan. So I believe it was around 4 years ago. I told a woman there that if we continue with this worldview in the Middle East, there will be a time when even garbage bags will not be enough for our bodies. And she called me a prophet of doom. I told them I'm not a prophet of doom nor a prophet of good news. I'm simply a child of this neighborhood that people call the Middle East. I grew up with Muslims. I studied with Muslims. I studied with them in their mosques. I studied Islam. I was in intelligence for 15 years. I know exactly what their world is about. I say if we continue with this worldview, I assure you a day will come when garbage bags will not be enough for our bodies. Then October 7th came.
I always tell people that if I had to define in one sentence, who are those people who attend this kind of festival? It's people who choose love. No one is interested whether you're looking strange, whether you're looking normal or not. So it's something very liberating and new, breaking standards that society imposes on you.
We spent the night there, celebrating with all our friends. Everyone got there, we met everyone, we celebrated, we danced, and then the sunrise came.
And I was with someone. I was with Renani Glaser, who was my boyfriend. We were dancing and suddenly the music stopped. We weren't expecting it. And then we began hearing explosions. Then as we looked up, we saw several missiles, all of them coming from Gaza. I have lived here for nearly 4 years. Renani lived here for 7, 8 years. We're actually used to these situations, not because it's common, but because we know all the procedures. So we saw all of that happening and we were like, okay, let's keep calm and see where we are going.
At first, my friend and I, we kept our cool. We were both soldiers in the army, so we already had been through that. We said, it's all right. We have the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is essentially a shield that we have to protect the country against rockets. It detects a rocket and then it takes it down.
We started running down the road towards Reim. We spotted the first road bunker, which is literally a block of concrete. It's a concrete box with no door in it. That's a road bunker. We were the first to get in. We arrived at the bunker around 10 to 7 a.m. It was quick. We took our stuff and left the party. Then the three of us sat down and chatted in a corner of the bunker.
Then suddenly we heard gunfire from afar. All of a sudden, we see a crowd of people running, just running back. A crazy crowd of people running back towards the festival. They were running from a car with a machine gun in the back, and we see pop all over.
As time went by, slowly more and more people running from the party arrived at the bunker. At the end, there were like 40 people in a space that could hold 12 people at most. We started hearing gunshots from outside. We didn't know what was going on. Then they threw the first gas grenade inside the bunker. They threw the first in, and then the second, and the third, and the stun grenades. They were like a bomb that heated the room so people would come out. We started feeling that we were burning, and then they came in and started shooting everyone who would move. They started to make, at the entrance of the bunker, they made a fire where they started burning the bodies, so all that smoke was also coming into the bunker. And the only thing going on in my mind was, I'm gonna die like a Jew in the Holocaust. Because as a Jew, my entire childhood, I heard of the Holocaust. My entire family on my grandmother's side died in the Holocaust in Poland. Then you find yourself in a small space with gas and full of Jews. And that's the first thing you think of. Renani, from what I understood, started feeling frustrated. Then he turned to me and said that he wanted to try and do something to confront them in some way. He wanted to know that, okay, if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die fighting. At least that's what I felt. I didn't see him inside anymore. My left leg started to hurt really bad for about 2 hours because of all the people who were on top of me. I could feel my ear bleeding, I could feel my eyes burning, and then I'd pass out and I'd wake up. It was kind of a cycle. I'd pass out and then wake up. I'd curse God for not taking me because I was in terrible pain. I wanted to die quickly because of the pain all over my body and my lungs. Everything burned. It was hot. I felt I was burning. Everyone screaming. It was a horrible scene. You can't even imagine. After 5 hours in this situation, I saw a man entering the bunker and shouting, "Is there anyone alive in the shelter? Is there anyone alive? If you're alive, give us a sign." At that moment, I got up. I don't know how, I just pushed everyone away. I got up. Then I turned, and he couldn't see me very well because of the gas, and there was a horrible smell of burnt flesh, something you can't describe nor forget. Then he started rushing me outside of the bunker. But as he was rushing me out, I froze. Because between he and me, there was a sea of bodies. Only then I realized I was surrounded by bodies. So that guy at the entrance, he hugged me. He kind of put me in his arms and took me outside. The first thing I felt was the heat of the fire next to the bunker. The scene of the burned bodies. Then the guy took me behind the bunker, opposite to the entrance. I saw Rafa lying on the ground, looking up like this, as if thanking God for being alive and kind of shock-like, checking himself up. And the only thing I managed to tell him was Renani is dead. At that moment, I didn't want to accept I had seen his body. I did, but I didn't accept it. I preferred to think it was just seeing things. And of those 40 people, only 10 came out alive. Those who were under many others. And the irony is that everyone, I mean most of the people who died inside that bunker were extremely hurt, beyond recognition. And those who came out alive didn't take any bullets. Because we were underneath the others.
October 7th was the biggest terrorist attack in Israeli territory.
بسم الله بسم الله فاتحين.
Around 3,000 Hamas terrorists invaded Israeli territory. They broke into a party that was taking place in southern Israel on a Jewish holiday. At the party, they murdered over 300 people. They left for different communities and broke into dozens of communities in southern Israel. The terrorists murdered around 1,200 people. They injured 5,500 people and kidnapped 240 people.
I thought, what the hell is this? They were laughing. They were killing and laughing.
I could see it. I could see their joy when they got to the rave. Their joy in harming those innocent people. I could see it in their eyes. I could see it in their smile, in their beard, smeared in dirt. I could see everything. The smile on their face as they saw us. And the joy, but a joy that comes from a source from where they came. It was something sort of like, I can't explain.
Hello. يابا طبعا انا قاعد اكلمك من جوا بالسيم افتح الواتس تبع قول له وين شوف كيف القتلى شوف كيف قتلك فيديو يابا ابنك قتل يهود هاي دخلوا بالسيم يابا الله اكبر ربنا يحميك يا رب، ربنا يحميك يا رب، ربنا يحميك يا رب. بكلمك من جوال يهودية قتلتها وقتلت جوزها. الله أكبر، الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. يابا افتح الوقت شوف كيف قتلت يابا. افتح بدي عليك وقت قول له وين بروح. ربنا معك السلام. يابا يابا بصير يابا. يابا والله 10 قتلت 10 بيدي يابا. يابا على ايدي اعطيني امي اعطيني امي. يما يما يحميك يما. طول الليل 10 بيدي يما. 10 يما بيدي قتلت.
شو اسمك رباعي؟
عامر سامي مرزوق ابو بوش.
من وين؟
غزة التفاح.
لما دخلتوا شو كانت التعليمات تبعكم؟
احنا الزملاء تبعتنا كنا بس نكتب.
يعني
مش مهمتنا الخط، مهمتنا القتل.
شو قالوا لكم بدكم تقتل كل واحد كل اللي بتشوف؟
بتشوفوا بتقتلوه ويرجع بعدين.
ما في فرق بين رجال نسوان اولاد الكل؟
مرقنا أول بيت يعني مرقنا عليه فتشنا فيش فيه شيء في حمزة الزرق حاق الأوضة اللي برا ولعها. تمام. ولعها اللي هو بعديها طلع زلمة من جنان الورا معاه غربيش. شافوا أبو أحمد وحمزة طخوا عليه قتلوه. طلعنا على البيت الثالث كان في مرة قتلها حمزة طخها. بعدين مرقنا في بيت جنبينا كان من الشباك مرقنا فيه ومرقنا فتشنا البيت سمعنا صوت أولاد صغار في قلب الملجأ. طخنا على الملجأ.
قاتل الأولاد هذا شيء معقول حسب الدين الإسلامي؟
لا.
شو بيقول النبي محمد بهذه الشغلة؟
الصغار ما لهمش دعوة ولا صغار.
About a week after the Hamas attack, I paid a visit to the kibbutzim that were hit by the terrorists. I had never seen anything like that in my life. And the memory I can't shake off is the smell. There was a smell that I had never experienced before in my life. It's called the smell of death. And there was total destruction. Blood everywhere. And the smell, just a terrible, terrible smell. That was the strongest thing that was imprinted on me from that visit to the massacre sites.
دخلت في الكيبوتس ودخلت في أقرب دار. في دار. فتحت على الباب ما فيش صوت حد. رحت دخلت في غرفتي اتفاجأت في البنت. اوكي. زي إذا بتقول ساعدني من هيك هنا. حطيت رميتها على الكنبة. عملت الحين الشيطان غواني واخذتها هيك نيمتها وشدحتها لهين وعملت اللي عملته. نمت معها.
ما نمت هذا النوم. انت ما نمت معها. شو عملت؟
اغتصبتها.
Did October 7th change something in your perspective?
In my perspective, I was very disappointed to understand that there is evil as well. There is strict evil. The world is so advanced and we all learned history, philosophy, human rights. I couldn't believe that there is still so many percentage in this planet, not a lot, 15%, 10%, that they are not there. They're still into, if you are going to have sex with this boy, we're gonna kill you in the family, because if you are gay, we'll kill you. It's fucking primitive. And it's okay, they can live like this, but don't come to kill me if I live differently.
Good afternoon. Today, the people of Israel are under attack, orchestrated by a terrorist organization. Hamas.
Hamas. Hamas. Hamas. Hamas. Hamas. Hamas. Hamas. Hamas. Hamas. Hamas.
Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders overnight.
They have taken Israelis hostage, and they have taken them back inside of Gaza.
At this hour, at least 200 Israelis are reported dead and 1,100 wounded.
My name is Mus'ab Hassan Youssef. I was born in Ramallah, the West Bank. This is the part known in Israel as Judea and Samaria, where the Palestinian Authority has been trying to establish a Palestinian state. I am the son of one of the founders of Hamas, Sheikh Hassan Youssef. I was brought up in Hamas leadership, very close to the decision making, witnessed Hamas evolution. So with all this knowledge, I still think it's too complicated to figure out all the dimensions of this conflict. If I tell you that I know my father completely, I lie to you. I don't know if even he knows who he is. His affiliation with Hamas is something else. A persona, a job he took, title or identity that he had to connect himself to. In my opinion, they're all false. They're just not who he is. But he insists to be that, where he's just holding so tight on this religious identity, the early conditioning of his life. Literally, they're just the first 15 or 20 years of his life. For us, the Holy Land was Palestine. This is how it was referred to. So we grew up believing that there was such thing as Palestine, as a country. Additional to that, the Islamic indoctrination, which considers Jerusalem and the entire region as an Islamic trust, that Muslims should never give it to non-Muslims. So we grew up with this belief that we must emancipate, fight until we liberate Al-Aqsa Mosque, until we kick out the Jewish people completely out of that land. So it's not only a matter of Palestine, more importantly, that it is an Islamic land that must be, it's the duty of every Muslim around the world to fight until it's liberated. When I was arrested, I was filled with hatred against Israel. I wanted to take revenge. In prison, Israel was looking for collaborators. And when they approached me to work for them, I thought I could fool them and manipulate them for Hamas. This is why I agreed in principle. And I was only 19 years old. I just turned 18 years old. So I agreed with the hidden intention to harm the Israelis. When I saw Hamas in prison, Israeli prison, back in 1996, and I was shocked because of their abuse. They abused power. At that time, Hamas functioned as a small government. They had a full government, ministers, leadership. They had different tasks. They had security wing. They killed people. They tortured people. They accused innocent people. They destroyed life inside prison and outside of prison. The only source that actually felt credible and trustworthy were the enemy that I thought all the time I wanted to destroy, which was Israel. The first few years of my relationship with the Israeli intelligence was based on suspect, on doubt. We did not trust each other completely, but I focused on my education and I focused on learning. I focused on exploring and getting to know my enemy on the other side. Then it turned into friendship, and the bridges of trust were established until the second intifada started.
The Second Intifada was a campaign of deliberate killing of civilians in an indiscriminate way by means of suicide bombers going on buses, on cafes and restaurants and hotels.
And when the Second Intifada started, I found myself in Yasser Arafat meetings. I found myself in Hamas leadership meetings. I found myself in at the epicenter of the entire conflict. And I was able to do something about it. I was able to stop the violence. That basically the Yasser Arafat strategy, it was his strategy to globalize the Intifada. He thought if we make it into a global chaos, the whole world will put pressure on Israel to solve this problem. He started hijacking commercial airplanes. They went to the Olympics in Munich. They assassinated so many people. It's a Yasser Arafat strategy, a PLO strategy.
My name's Yakov Amadror. I'm a Major General in the Reserves after 36 years of serving the IDF. I was the National Security Advisor of the State of Israel and also the advisor of the Prime Minister. Arafat was the first serious leader after the 48 Arab-Israeli War, who rose in Palestine, managed to unite almost everyone and lead them in the international arena and against the State of Israel to something that's half a state. But when he reached to that point, he proved that he could not transition from a terrorist leader to a proper state leader.
It's not like we were constantly trying to kill Yasser Arafat. If we had been trying, we would have succeeded. I am Uzi Dayan. After all these years serving in the Israeli army, I finally reached the rank of Major General. I was a Lieutenant Chief of Cabinet and Director of the National Security Council. My father was the younger brother of Moshe Dayan. There was a special group that tried to figure out how we could eliminate Yasser Arafat. But we weren't able to do it, mainly because he was always surrounded by many people. And we couldn't just kill 300 Lebanese civilians, many of whom were women and children, just to be able to kill Arafat as well. I think it's a shame we didn't kill him back then, because at the end of the day, Arafat turned out to be the biggest enemy of the peace process.
I met him personally. I was in his office multiple times. Yasser Arafat was on one hand posing as the peace partner, the Nobel Prize winner for peace. But in the secret, he was given Hamas the permission and the blessings to carry out suicide bombing attacks. That was in his meetings where I witnessed. I put my hand on this information. And they are not looking for peace. They're not looking to end the conflict. If I didn't know most of them, I don't want to say all of them, on a personal level, their secret life, their public life, their family, their cousins, how they conduct business, their mentality, and I find them untrustworthy.
Maybe the Americans have forgotten 9/11, New York's worst terrorist attack ever. Was it an accident?
I want to reveal a secret to you now. The person responsible for creating Al-Qaeda, the organization that destroyed the Twin Towers, he is Palestinian. His name is Abdullah Azzam. He comes from near my village. He was a teacher at the same school that I went to. In the name of the most merciful, my name's Mohammed Masad. I was born in 1975 in the village of Burkeen, which is not very far from Jenin.
Well, let's see. I was born in Gaza, in Khan Yunis, into an old Palestinian family with the name Ayman Abu Sabah. My father spent 7 years working in Israel. Whenever he heard that Jews had been killed somewhere, he'd always say, "Thank God, let them die." Every child has a dream for their future. Mine was being a doctor. The first lesson we were taught in school was the word Palestine. And math was like this. If I have 5 Jews here, and we kill 3 of them, how many are left? 2. But we're going to kill them too, yeah.
First of all, the Israelis arrested me because I was among the Palestinians. I was a terrorist. I was trying to burn Israelis. I was on my way to throw Molotov cocktails at them. I wanted to burn as many of them as I possibly could.
I was arrested when I was 19. Israel arrested me, and they took me to court. Before the court, I told them that I wanted to be Jewish, but they deported me back to Gaza. They weren't all Jewish, there were some Palestinians as well.
The people of PLO, they released me from the Israeli prison I was in. So I returned to the West Bank, joined the organization, and went back to being a bigger and more sophisticated terrorist, thinking of richer plans, of greater actions, so I could harm Israel, so I could destroy the state of Israel.
So they deported me back to Gaza. And I had a very hard time when I got there. They hung me upside down from the ceiling. They threw cold and hot water at me, electroshocks. They nailed my hands. They stuffed me in a mattress and kicked my entire body, my torso, my legs. And my father would say, "This is not my son. He is just a traitor. You brought shame to our family."
They murdered many of my friends who just opposed them in any way. A friend of mine, who was such a good man, he was so generous and very kind, and all he wanted was the welfare of the people. He opposed the Palestinian Authority on social media, and they murdered him with sticks, axes, knives. His name was Nizar Banat. This is all proven and documented. They went and murdered him and his children. They witnessed everything they did to him. They have murdered our friends. They have murdered our brothers for publicly opposing their corruption, for opposing war, for opposing their inhumane actions.
So after a month, my family threw me out. I was like a bum living in the streets, with one set of clothes, just a shirt, and a pair of pants and a pair of old shoes. So I ran away to Egypt. From Egypt to Turkey, and then from Turkey I got here.
I split with the Palestinians. I distanced myself. I ran away. I came to Israel and started living here. The Israelis saw that I'm a human being. I'm just a human being. And they saw that I changed my mind, but only because I denounced the shortcomings of the Palestinians. Every day, at any hour of the day, they're sending someone here to try to kill me. They even planted a bomb underneath my car. I'm not even allowed to drive a car. It's been 4 or 5 years now. It's not for my safety I fear. They know me too well. I would run straight towards death in order to face them. I am not afraid of dying or anything else. But unfortunately, the world doesn't know what is going on. Apparently, the world is blind. It can't see.
No one says anything about the cruelty they had when they killed our children. You see them coldly cut off babies' heads? They hung them from a rope, as if they were clothes on a clothesline.
For me, I had to think, what if Hamas succeed one day of actually destroying the state of Israel and building an Islamic state they want?
Is James Wright Foley an American citizen of your country?
Is this how they're going to do to our people? Because when you mix politics and religion, you have the most corrupt entity of all time. That's like the worst thing that could happen. And this is Hamas.
This was a religious war, however you want to look at it. Hezbollah, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, what's the difference between them? They all murdered Jews in the name of Allah, in the name of Muhammad.
culture of the Middle East is a culture of struggle, mainly over water, because most of this region is desert. I'm Dr. Mordecai Kadar. I studied Arabic from a very young age in school. I served in the intelligence corps, in military intelligence for 25 years. After that, in academia, studying Arabic. The Sahara, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, it's all desert. In the desert, you must always preserve your water source. That's critical for you to survive in the desert. Therefore, everyone is your enemy, because once you run out of water, you'll have to go and look for more. So people will kill each other to take their water source. Therefore, in the desert, and I'm talking of hundreds of thousands of years, since the first humans tried to live in the Middle Eastern deserts, the other is by definition an enemy. And this is deeply embedded within the Middle Eastern culture. Islam came to be only 1,400 years ago. It came and tried to organize the relationships between people. But the perception that the other is naturally an enemy of yours, it didn't change that. It used it. Because the moment you define the other, the non-Muslim, an enemy, you justify the jihad against it.
Jihad is when you wage war against an enemy in the name of Allah. The war between us, between Jews and Muslims, started back in the time of the Prophet Muhammad. It was 1,450 years ago. It was then the Prophet Muhammad and the Muslims wanted to convert all the Jews to Islam. The Muslims wanted all the Jews who lived in the region to accept Islam. That was our first conflict.
It's a religious duty that every Muslim is obligated to jihad. And jihad applies if there was an Islamic land captured by the non-Muslims until this land is emancipated, is liberated. Now, those who cannot fight physically, they must fight with their own money.
It is crucial to understand one very significant aspect, which is that the Israeli-Arab conflict is essentially a religious conflict. This means that if you see this conflict as if it were simply a matter of territory, or as if it were a competition of economic or strategic aspects, you kind of miss a lot of the depth of the matter.
It was a religious matter that turned into a territorial one, meaning that back in 1948, we created or reinstated the State of Israel, and the conflict, which was religious at first, became religious, but also a territorial one.
The Islam says that Judaism and Christianity are obsolete. In Arabic, din batil, that means voided religions, both Judaism and Christianity. Islam sees itself as a religion that came to replace Judaism and Christianity, and to appropriate everything that once belonged to the Jewish or the Christians' traditions. Therefore, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, David, Solomon, and Jesus, they were all Muslim. So according to Islam, Solomon built a mosque in Jerusalem. That was history according to Islam. So Judaism, because it's obsolete, shouldn't have a state.
The Jewish people, they are described in the worst possible way as the disobedient nation that fell from Allah's grace, and they are under a curse, and they must be punished on the hands of the Muslims. So Allah basically given a permission for the Muslims to be the sword of Allah on earth.
Now, to make the situation worse, a little over 20 years ago, Hamas took over control of Gaza. So everyone in this new generation has become anti-Jewish. They are being indoctrinated into the Islamic viewpoint that Israel must be completely destroyed. And who's supposed to destroy it? The army of Mohammed.
They teach their children things that you cannot find in any of the sacred texts. They teach their children that if they kill a Jew, they're going to paradise, and that they'll be rewarded with rivers of honey and virgins and fragrances and all sorts of beautiful and pleasant things. They, like I was, they are just children. They want that reward, and they aren't afraid of being punished.
كنا نسأل هتلر لما ترك البعض منكم كي يرينا كما أنتم خبيثون كي يرينا كما أنتم خبيثون من تحت الأرض نخرج إليكم ندق الرعب في قلوبكم.
نقهر العدو بالسلاح يا كرام، نقهر العدو بالخوف، نقهرهم بالرعب، نقهرهم بإعداد المواقع وتدريب الرجال واستعداد كل أبناء الشعب الفلسطيني والمسلمين.
دم الشهيد أحب شيء إلى الله. الشهيد له دار لا يوجد أحسن منها. الشهداء هم أول من يدخلوا الجنة.
ومن فوق الأرض بصواريخنا نقطعكم أشلاء أشلاء. ومن فوق الأرض بصواريخنا نقطعكم أشلاء أشلاء. إلى الملاجئ يا فئران، هيا إلى الملاجئ يا ابن اليهودية يا فئران.
You see, I think they represent what we usually consider as being hardcore believers. As for their numbers, I think it's very difficult to know how many they are. We could say that there is an Orthodox Muslim community, which today are dominant, and there are very different perspectives about how loyal they all are to authentic Islam, and that's a question that is discussed within Islam. On one hand, we have several outbursts of violence, and on the other hand, there are Muslims who do not support terrorism.
I am Arab and Muslim. I have actually studied the Quran, and I do believe in it. Hamas does not follow Islam. There is no reason for any Muslim to murder a Christian, a Jew, or anyone who's innocent. There's no religious justification at all for a Muslim to kill anyone. A Muslim is not allowed to shed blood unless the person is defending their own life or in order to protect the life of an innocent person.
So the Arabs themselves go to the Israeli army to fight those fundamentalists, and they are Muslim too.
Hello, my name is Nader. I'm 39 years old and I live in Zarzir. My religion is Islam. This is my Israeli identity card. I am an Israeli citizen. This is my country and my home. I'm a commander at the Desert Reconnaissance Battalion, a troop of Bedouins who are IDF volunteers. And we have always fought together with our Jewish brothers since the foundation of the state in '48. And we will keep fighting by their side. This is a message to all my fellow Muslims, we see Hamas as a terrorist group. They took women, they took men, they killed children, they raped women, they killed old people. There's no religion that allows these actions. Neither Islam, neither Judaism, or any other. Hamas claims to be following Islam, but they're far from doing it. Instead of building schools or hospitals, they're building tunnels. There's only one thing you can expect Hamas to bring Gaza. That's death.
I remember when I was a kid, and I would pay a visit to my grandparents. I remember them digging a hole in their backyard. I remember I asked them, "What's this?" And they laughed. They said they were digging the ground in order to find water. Every 3 or 4 months they would dig, saying they were looking for water. I saw them doing this in Gaza, in Khan Yunis, in Rafah, but they were actually digging tunnels.
The territory of Gaza is about 25 by 6 miles, give or take, and it covers a network of hundreds of miles of tunnels. And at several spots of this network, above the spots where they interconnect, they're building civil structures such as schools, mosques, and even hospitals. A great number of the Israelis that they are keeping as hostages were taken to Gaza and inside the tunnels.
On October 7, 8:15 in the morning, 5 terrorists entered their house and they shot the door of the safe room while my grandfather held the handle. They shot 5 bullets in the handle. One of them injured him. They went into the safe room. They took my grandmother. They dragged my grandfather naked at home. My grandfather and my grandmother fought all their life for peace, for coexistence, for doing everything for the two nations to live in a good place. In 1984, he went to Gaza to tell the leader, Rashad Ashawa, that if Gaza want a future, they have to build schools and make education. Otherwise, something very bad will finally happen. He was taking sick Gazans every week from the Erez border to the hospitals in Israel to get chemotherapy and very expensive treatment they couldn't get in the hospitals in Gaza, and brought them back before taking care of his cactus garden, his family, play the piano, making a Friday dinner like every family wants. That's all what a family wants. And that's what we don't have since October 7.
Shimi, which until this point, it's very hard to find a picture of her without a child in her arms. She's a kindergarten teacher by trade. We got a picture of her holding her two young kids, Ariel, which was 4 years old at the time, and baby Kfir, which was 9 months old when he was taken from his bed. You can see the horror in Shiri's eyes when you look at the video. How much she was terrified from the safety of her children. She probably was without Yarden at that point. Yarden was led to Gaza on a golf cart. His head was bashed by the terrorists. Later videos that we only got recently showing how brutal there was when they took him away from his wife and children.
I tell you, it's the worst thing can be in the world to be a family of a hostage. And why is that? Because you have no closure. You know that you are living your life while you might never have a closure of what happened to your family member, of what happened to your boy, to your daughter.
يا كلاب والله لا ندعس عليكم يا كلاب.
ان شاء الله هاي السبايك هاي الهم.
That's my son. David isn't here anymore. It was a difficult moment.
My son was a soldier. He was serving in the mandatory military service. They were sent over to protect a group of people. 6 terrorists came up. They were heavily armed with grenades. They planned to enter the kibbutz. That means our sons died in order to stop the attackers. And thanks to them, the terrorists didn't enter the kibbutz.
They went to fight and try and save as many as they could.
Our son was injured on October 7th after having fought an intense battle against the terrorists. He killed many of them. He protected and saved many soldiers who were with him. Our lives were changed. We really miss him. We've been feeling a lot of pain and an emptiness. It's really hard. We've made a promise to Amachai, inspired by the heroism he displayed in the battlefield and by the stories that we heard from his friends. We promise to survive and to keep doing good, just like Amachai used to, like we taught him to.
Well, I was 5 years old at the time of the Holocaust. My parents were taken and killed in the concentration camp in Auschwitz. What has happened here in our home in Israel is something completely different. It's true that we grew up without our parents. It's true that it was difficult. And many times we didn't have anything to eat. And at times we had to wear the same piece of clothing for weeks. But none of these barbaric acts can be compared to what has happened now. My grandson's name was Israel-Palestine. He was 33 years old when he died. That's my daughter. Hey, come talk to them.
This is her
my
daughter. She's her
and
daughter.
This was her son.
Take her
Thank
testimony
God I
as
have
well.
amazing parents. They both lived through the Holocaust. Our son was called Israel-Palestine. He was born during Pesach, the celebration of the birth of our people. When he was still a month-old baby, we placed an Israeli flag in his hand. At his funeral, the coffin came with an Israeli flag on top, escorted by soldiers from the army. At that moment, I felt all the strength being passed on to us from the fact that we're a country, from my parents, and through their roots. That's when I felt the strength that our story is not ordinary, that we're an eternal people, and that it started long, long ago, and that we're part of a very long chain, and that I'm privileged to have the parents I have. And our son keeps carrying the values that he grew up learning from us. And I'm very, very proud of it, and it hurts a lot. It's very difficult. We miss him a lot. But I feel really, really honored to be, at the same time, the daughter of my parents and the mother of my son.
We're not a people that enjoys going to war. We only go to war when we don't have any other choice. And we're surrounded by so many enemies that all they can think of is what they can do to hurt us and how to exterminate us. And all we want is to live in peace. We send our children to serve in the army in the hopes that they will come back to us safe and sound. I never wanted my son to be killed. We are a country. that cherishes life, that enjoys living, and that blesses life.
My brother was Shiloh Rockerber. He was 23 years old, and he was a commander at the Army, at the 51 Battalion of the Golani Brigades. And I'm just here to say that I really do support this war. And I support it because I cannot accept that all these people we loved have just died in vain. And I think that this shows that something must be done in order to put an end in the situation for good. That's it.
I think this conflict was the most impactful in Israel since 1948. My name is David Ricardo Ram. I'm a reformed colonel. I'm now responsible for Israel's Southwest at the National Guard. When we got to the town of Ramallah, we had a shootout with 3 terrorists who were going toward Jerusalem. We managed, of course, to stop and arrest the terrorists, but one of them shot me. It was almost a miracle. I moved my head less than an inch, and the bullet went between the helmet and my head. It scratched me in the back. It came in through here and out through here. What I tried to teach throughout my life to all my officers is that our enemy is he's always armed with the intention to kill me. And he has the power, not just the intention. That's why I'd say the limits must be very clear. Know your enemy, those with the tools to kill you, not the ones without. Before we put an end to the terrorist menace against civilians, this conflict cannot end.
The question is, what will bring peace in the Middle East, yes? So one possible answer is to make concessions to the other side, okay? Make concessions. But does not work. As was proved in World War II, okay? What about disarmament? Does disarmament bring about peace? No, it doesn't. Now, you know what enabled the Roman peace? Si vis pacem para bellum, which means if you want peace, prepare for war.
Just so you have an idea, to every 1,000 people in the Israeli territory, 1 has been kidnapped or assassinated at the October 7th attacks.
People come and they rape and torture and burn. We do not anymore take that lying down. Okay, we do not take it lying down. We respond.
תחנות פיקוד הדרום כאן קודקוד. אנחנו יוצאים למתקפה על החמאס וארגוני הטרור ברצועת עזה. מטרתנו היא אחת, ניצחון. לא משנה כמה תהיה ארוכה הלחימה, כמה קשה, אין תוצאה אחרת מלבד ניצחון.
It is very important for the future of Israel to make clear that anyone who attacks Israel with such barbarism, with such unimaginable cruelty against children, women, the elderly, civilians, a music festival, will not be allowed by Israel to exist. Whoever is the leader of Hamas today, and wherever they may be, they are dead. We have a special operation to track the 3,000 who invaded the state of Israel, and we will kill them one by one. Not one will be left alive. And we will go after the entire leadership of Hamas, wherever they are.
Because since 1948, we are a sovereign nation, okay? And we have an army, and we have an air force. You cannot do that to us anymore.
If you're firing from your own kid's house, what should I do? Should I take the bullet? I don't want to take the fucking bullet. I have a kid. I don't want to take the fucking bullet. I put down the building.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה. לא במבצע, לא בסבבים, במלחמה. במקביל הוריתי לבצע גיוס מילואים נרחב ולהשיב מלחמה שערה בעוצמה ובהיקף שהאויב לא הכיר. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע כמותו.
I'm Rahaf Mahmoud Assad Ismail Gozat. We used to go to school every day. Life was so beautiful then. Well, when the war started, on the first day of war, we were all just getting ready to go to school as usual. The men from Hamas started launching rockets, but at the time we thought that the Jewish were launching missiles to hit us. Mom told us not to go because there was going to be war and it would be dangerous. So we changed back to our normal clothes and didn't go to school that day. My father and uncle went out to check. They thought the tanks had retreated. That was when the Jewish shot my father. He was martyred right at that moment. My uncle came back home and told us my father had been martyred. So my father became a martyr. At that moment, we still did not believe that my father had been martyred.
The last time before my family was surrounded, my father came and turned the TV on, and we went to the room to watch it. We watched TV for some time. Early the next morning, I went to my sister's house. Then I slept at her house, and my family stayed home. My nephew and my niece, they stayed with them. They were surrounded, and I stayed alone in Gaza. They're down in the south. My dad and half of my sisters went.
At the end of the day, if we do not amputate, it might affect the patient negatively, sometimes leading to death. We've had children who need an amputation. We have around 3 amputations every day.
My name is Hassan Munir Sobi Arafat. I am 12 years old. I'm from Zaytun in Gaza. I was just sitting on the floor in the living room with my whole family. It was time for us to do our afternoon prayers. My sisters and I were at my uncle's house. We wanted to leave quickly, but suddenly, I was under the sand and a lot of rocks.
We were caught by surprise without any warning or any alarm. All we knew was that we were in the safe zone, the area south of Wadi Gaza, which was officially a safe zone. We were awakened by the bombs and the house falling upon us. My wife and I were the first ones to wake up. I woke up shocked with the rubble and the destruction falling on my head out of nowhere. And then I shouted, "Somebody help! My children are sleeping under the rubble." In an instant, more than 10 people came up to us. The young men of my neighborhood, they all came to help. They came in to help us, so I told them, "Listen to me, boys. My children are under the rubble there. Mesa, Tariq, and Reem, so please, don't mess around this part." So they asked, where then? And they started removing all of the large rocks. They removed the rocks and found a blanket, and they pulled it. They grabbed it and pulled. They lifted the blanket, each holding a corner like a hammock. They took it to the side. That's where they found my daughter, Mesa. She was almost dead. Tariq and Reem were taken. They were taken to the hospital. My nephew picked me up. He picked me up and we went to Alauda, to the hospital. And there I found Tariq and Reem martyred. Why did they kill those people? What for? They are responsible before Allah. They are the ones responsible. In all political levels, in all military levels, they are the ones responsible for the death of our children with their greed. I pray for Allah to avenge us.
Tell me your name. Sila?
Sila Akush.
In what grade are you, Sila?
Second.
3rd grade?
Second.
2nd. Do you remember what happened the day of the bombing?
Yes, we were coming home from school, and then we heard an explosion. So I went to my mother and my sisters and I, we lost our house. I was hit, and the shrapnel, it deformed me.
What do you wish, Sila? What do you wish to do when you grow up?
I want to travel and to receive treatment and be like I was, and that the war is over so I can see my family.
In every war, there are many more civilians that killed than belligerents. Many more civilians. The general ratio is about 9 to 1. 9 times as many civilians are killed. Here in Gaza, it's about 1 to 1.
There's something people need to understand. The war against Hamas is asymmetric. In their perspective, any target is valid, whether it's children, whether it's babies, whether it's women, whether it's foreign civilians. Anything that comes into their crosshairs, in their perspective, is a completely valid victim. This kind of war takes a long time, especially the terrorists use the people, the civilians, the local population, as an integral part of their defense strategy. They're what we call human shields.
المستشفيات اغلب المستشفيات بتتخبى من المستشفيات مثلا الشفا فيها طابق بودرة ممكن في البودرة الشفا كبيرة مش صغيرة الشفا تبعها في بتخبوا
عشان ايش؟
عشان انتوا بتكسبوهمش.
It's complicated because Hamas operates within the civilian population. The absurd is that Hamas wants to increase the number of civilian victims, because the more civilian victims there are, the better are the grounds they have to condemn Israel on the international stage.
When I was a pilot and I went on missions to target the terrorists in Gaza, our security services used to call everyone who lived close to the target and tell them, we know that under your house there's an ammunition station. There's a missile deposit, so you must leave. Leave immediately, because we're going to attack that deposit.
حاليا في كل منطقة الجبالية. نعطي إنذار قبل الوقت لكل الناس في المنطقة لتطلعوا بصورة آمنة إلى الجبال. لكل جبالية. جبالية. كل جبالية.
4-5 אנשים צפונית למבנה.
המטרה הזאת נמנעה בעקבות הדיווחים על בלתי מעורבים.
5 ילדים לא עוברים, נייחים ליד המבנה.
חדש.
אנחנו מזהים ילד אצלנו פה בתמונה.
מה הצפי?
רגע, זיהיתי לילד? כן, 2 אפילו. אוקיי, אז בואו נעצור את זה כאן.
Do you think anyone warns before an attack? Strategically, it doesn't make sense because I'm giving the enemy time to prepare. Actually, maybe the Hamas leadership are still alive because Israel warned them.
And in the end, there's the question of who suffers the most. Although I don't identify with the question of who suffers the most, because a mother that has lost her son, even if she's living in the most luxurious building in Tel Aviv, will suffer more than the mother in Gaza who hasn't lost a son. And the mother in Gaza who is privileged with her huge house, who has a good life and has lost a son, will suffer more than the one who didn't lose a son. That's a personal pain regardless of nationality. You see, the price is high on both sides and it has to stop, because Israel went through a great deal of suffering on October 7th. The trauma as an Israeli citizen is also huge. The fear, the feeling that you're under constant threat of rockets is really hard. And when we take a look at Gaza, we see the suffering is still, their suffering is even worse. With the high number of victims, their resources for survival, the impossibility of living a normal life, of living in a safer, healthier environment, not to mention Hamas, they still have Hamas.
So what they're basically saying is, even if your army is very strong, it is irrelevant, because we will kill your civilians, we will fire into your cities, and if you want to destroy us, you cannot do it, because we are hiding behind our children, hospitals, mosques, schools, and so on.
You see, we live under this pressure. Either Hamas surrenders and is dismantled, or all the guns Hamas has will cause even more destruction and bring more suffering to us.
The crime in this whole thing, regardless of who's behind Palestine and who's benefiting from Palestine as an ideology, the true victims in this are the children. How long we are going to allow foreign entities to exploit the hatred, exploit this ideology at the expense of children dying in every war, and then exploiting the tragedy of the children to spread more propaganda and more hatred and fan the flames of this conflict where it becomes global.
The tragedy is because the Palestinians were so useful that every time that Palestinian voices could have risen up to say, you know what, enough is enough. Spending all our efforts, all our abilities to destroy the Jewish state is a complete waste of resources. We don't want that anymore. We want to build for ourselves, live next to them. We're done with trying to destroy them. Every time that they could have made that decision, they were so useful to others that those immediately rushed in to say, no, no, no. You are pure victims of pure evil. Change nothing. Keep fighting for justice, for rights. It's a tragedy. and we're all trapped in it.
The Islamic countries don't act as a single body when the matter is power. But some countries have power as their ultimate aim.
رژیم صهیونیستی در بنبست کامل است و به فضل الهی این آرزوی تو به زودی محقق خواهد شد و این جرثومه فساد از صفحه روزگار محو خواهد شد.
Iran is essentially the octopus head, spreading its tentacles of terror in a colonization process stretching all around the Middle East, on a mission to destroy the state of Israel. Therefore, it is our understanding that we are essentially at war against Iran.
Well, Iran, or more specifically the Islamic Republic of Iran, is against the state of Israel. And since they flood the media, the TV stations, and society from top to bottom with slander against Israel, Iranians grow up knowing what Israel represents to them. In Iranian society, especially among the most religiously Muslim, it's believed that minorities are impure. There is also extremely strong religious discrimination within the Iranian regime's structure itself. If a Muslim murders someone from a religious minority, they'll have to pay a fine. But if someone from a minority, for example, someone who is Jewish, if that person murders a Muslim, they'll be put to death.
Very important aspect of this conflict to be understood, that the Iranian conflict is mostly against the Sunni world. There are two major denominations in the Arab world, the Shi'i denomination and the Sunni denomination. Both denominations have been clashing for 1400 years. It's a bloody conflict.
When the Prophet Muhammad died, Islam was split. Some said his successor should be a relative, while others said his successor should be someone who would be chosen from among his religious disciples. You see, so this conflict regarding the true successor of Muhammad divides Islam to this day.
There is a perception in Islam that I would call Pax Islamica, meaning an Islamic peace. If the entire world converts to Islam, the world will live in peace. There will be no borders, here will be no countries. The entire world will be an Islamic state. Everyone will believe in Allah, according to Muhammad, and everyone will cooperate with each other. But most of the Islamic countries or Islamic peoples believe in it as an eschatology, an apocalypse that will only happen at the end of history. Very few in Islam see it as something that will happen in our era, among them the Iranians. Today's Iran is descendant of the great Persian Empire. It stretched from Europe to India and Africa. Today, they still dream of conquering back those lands over which they rule one day. 1300 years ago, Islam arrived in Iran and converted the Persians. And now, when you combine all the Iranian imperialist perceptions, from that time with the modern Islamic Iranian perception of today. The Islamic one, you see, that the Iranian imperialist motivation has two sources: the Persian territorial imperialism and Islamic religious imperialism.
The Iranians do not like the Arabs. The Iranians see the Arabs. They see them as inferior. Iranians think they are smarter people. They say they do not want to be like the Arabs. Iranians produce advanced weapons and combat equipment. So the Iranian plan is to dominate all the Arab countries like Saudi Arabia and Islam's holy sites like Mecca and Medina.
Because they believe that they are the legitimate rulers of the Islamic world, not the Sunnis. And they hate each other a lot. In fact, Iran hates the Sunni world, and that includes Hamas, the irony of it. But they use Israel as the vessel to infiltrate, to indoctrinate, to destabilize the region and keep bleeding the Middle East to a point where they are able to conquer it.
The Iranians made an alliance with the Palestinian, a large and important Sunni organization, something inconceivable from a religious point of view, but actually very obvious for practical reasons. The Iranian interests are aligned with the Palestinian interests as they fight for their statehood and complete independence. A Palestinian state would need the support from other countries, and we see no Arabs upholding the Palestinian independence with political, diplomatic, and military support except Iran, and that's why Palestinians resorted to Iran.
And they have a system of remote fighting whose only role is to build a ring of fire that completely surrounds the state of Israel.
Iran is against the American influence in the Middle East. The westernization. So in order to combat their influence, they've come up with a practice that they call Sahar Hashihi. Sahar Hashihi is the practice of building many coalitions of Shias in countries with Shia population. In Iraq, 70% are Shia. They created the paramilitary militia Al-Sha'abi. 30% of Yemeni citizens are Shia. They are called Houthis. In Azerbaijan, there are also Shias who are supported by Iran. That's in Azerbaijan. They are called Husseiniun. In Afghanistan and Pakistan, approximately 10% of the population are Shia. They have created the Fatimiyun and the Zainabiyun. In Lebanon, 30% of the population are Shia. They have created the Hezbollah. Now, in order to strengthen all these militias, they need a lot of money. They need to take their taxes and invest it in the militias.
It's a spiral of sacrifice machine. The Iranian are willing to sacrifice Hezbollah, the Arab Shia. Hezbollah, the Arab Shia, will sacrifice the enemies of Israel, Hamas, because they're Sunni. And Hamas will sacrifice the Gazans. So in this spiral, they will all sacrifice each other.
Iran is considered the great dismantling agent of all the Middle East. Iran supports the terrorist groups. It provides training and intelligence. And the terrorist groups operating in the Middle East, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, the Islamic Jihad, among others, are proxies of Iran. They operate according to the guidelines that are given by Iran, who sponsors terrorism around the world.
So this is why the Iranian game is much, much bigger than Israel.
The dream of the Iranians, or more precisely the Islamic Republic of Iran, is to first take hold of the Middle East. But in the end, their ultimate goal is to conquer the whole world.
The offensive, taken by Iran, launched 350 missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles towards the Israeli territory with a total amount of 60 metric tons of explosives. The Israeli army, together with our partners, managed to intercept 99% of those attacks. Actually, some missiles were intercepted in Jerusalem above the mosque.
Well, you see, I believe that when someone says something, they say it with an intent. And if the current Iranian regime keeps talking about wanting to completely destroy the state of Israel, and if they see it as a sacred duty, then we have to believe that this is what they intend to do. And this is a menace, not only for the Jewish people, it's a menace for the peace of the entire world. The world must wake up to this reality before it's already too late.
The world must understand the escalation that happened in the Middle East because we are witnessing a country that holds imperialistic aspirations called Iran. And its leaders and rulers believe that they are being guided by their God, Allah, and that all their decisions are divine decisions. So if they decide for a military nuclear project, it was sent by God. The danger is that the use of the yield of such nuclear project might be the result of a divine decision against Christianity, against Judaism, or against any other infidels from India, from China, from Taiwan, or from Japan. The world must understand that this imperialism might come to destroy all the good and positive parts of the world that humanity cherishes today.
Today, after 2 years of negotiations, the United States, together with our international partners, has achieved something that decades of animosity has not: a comprehensive long-term deal with Iran that will prevent it from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This deal will have my name on it, so nobody has a bigger personal stake in making sure that it delivers on its promise. And if they try to cheat, we will immediately know about it, and sanctions snap back on.
When he makes it possible to Iran to develop nuclear weapons by, in the critical stage of enrichment, by waiting until the Iranians complete the entire process of enrichment, and he constantly says, it's too early, too early, too early, too early, oops, too late. Okay? This was his attitude vis-a-vis Iran.
Iran's rulers promised to destroy my country, murder my people. And the response from this body, the response from nearly every one of the governments represented here, has been absolutely nothing. Utter silence. Deafening silence. Perhaps you can now understand why Israel is not joining you in celebrating this deal.
It took us 2 years to convince the Americans that this was serious. For 2 years, they claimed we were wrong. All specialists told us that from the stage that they were in, back in 1995, they would take 10 to 15 years to build a nuclear weapon so they'd be able to have one in 2010 at most. Since then, Israel has been working to hinder Iran's process. So far, it has worked for us, but not forever. The state of Israel will face a difficult decision as to what it should do regarding Iran's nuclear program.
They are undoubtedly building an atomic bomb. They fooled the entire world for many years, claiming they weren't developing a nuclear bomb, but they have. They have developed missiles that can take these nuclear warheads far beyond the Israeli territory. Israel is just an advanced outpost of Western civilization stuck in the Middle East.
The truth is that the Arab and Islamic countries, the Sunni countries in the region, all depend on Iran to solve all the problems they have. Either the Americans embrace these countries, or if they don't embrace them, the Sunni Arab countries will all go to the arms of the Russians and the Chinese.
For Russia and China, they're just another pawn to be played against the Americans. In all their cynicism, as countries that fight against terrorism and kill terrorists and kill civilians and terrorists, they condemn the state of Israel for being an ally of the United States, and it pays a price for that. And it has nothing to do with what they think of Israel.
They work in symphony towards creating a new world order. So these are the things that are not secret. They've been declared by China, by Russia, by Iran, and their proxies. And October 7 did not happen just out of the blue.
And if Israel falls against the jihad, be it Sunni or Shia, they'll immediately be headed towards Europe in order to seize the momentum and take it over as well. And the Atlantic Ocean isn't large enough in order to keep North America and South America safe from this jihad, especially after the immigration of many Muslim waves, both to North and South America.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
I am Iranian, but I'm not from a Jewish community in Iran. I'm Iranian from the Muslim community. So you must take into account that I see things as a minority. I have built my way of speaking and my worldview from a minority perspective. Mohammed came through Algeria. He's now in France. Now in the liberal Western world of the French, who actually invented liberalism, they say you must welcome others. Then do it. And there's something else called equal rights. So now Mohammed, who arrived there coming from Algeria, has exactly the same rights as Jennifer, the sexy blonde French girl. Equal rights. Of course. So Mohammed works and works and works in France, and one day he's granted French citizenship. Mohammed then calls another Mohammed in Algeria. He tells him France is full of idiots. I'm the same as Jennifer. So Mohammed brings another Mohammed, and another one, and another one. And those stupid French liberals welcome all of them. Now there are 9 million of them. 50 years from now, there will be no France.
My opinion about Europeans, I beg some Muslims to forgive me, but Europeans are opening the doors to their countries to Muslims and welcome them to their countries. They see, they hear, and they talk about how they deal with them. They welcome, they shelter, they provide a salary to refugees from Palestine and other Arab countries. Of course, that is not an excuse for someone to move from their home country, but I see this act of mercy that they display towards Muslims, a sign long lost in Arab countries.
Project of immigration of Arabs to Europe will crash because it will mean a large presence of people who are strange to Europe. This is because conflicts will force them to return to their countries, because otherwise Europe will suffer a lot in the future. Their cultures are already starting to clash, and that's a natural thing. Different cultures do clash. And this is going to force those foreigners to return to their home countries.
In the Muslim world, there is an expression called jihad hashaket, and it is used when a Muslim arrives in a Western liberal country and he thinks, just like this, our weapon is the womb of our Muslim women and wives, because their womb produces children. And the basis of Western democracy are elections. The people decide on the ballot. So who is going to decide in 50 years?
حضارة كاذبة خاطئة حضارة إلحاد وكفر حضارتهم حضارة عهر وفجور وشذوذ لهذا فهم يحقدون على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يا مكرون الزم حدك يا مكرون الزم حدك بالجهاد نهدم مسجدك بالجهاد نهدم مسجدك يا مكرون يا خسيس يا مكرون يا خسيس بكره راح نفتح باريس بكره راح نفتح باريس.
So it means that the Western liberal world, unconscious of their nationalism, is killing itself from within, and it doesn't even know what to make of it. It is a careful and slow, but very effective process. I understand that I'm too radical, but I actually do know what I'm talking about.
When we talk about 15 to 20% of the population, illegal immigrants, well, this is the greatest threat against any society that is going eventually to lead to impulsion.
They run away from their country because their country was destroyed by their culture. And then they bring the same culture to Europe. If you want the good guys to have a good life, you must see to it that the bad guys cannot destroy this good life. We live in the real world, not in La La Land.
The moment the Charlie Hebdo terrorists staged a gun battle with police in a Parisian street.
First suicide bomb outside the Stade de France, north of Paris.
The mass sexual assault of 1,200 women on New Year's Eve by as many as 2,000 men.
4 months after Paris, the scene of the latest terror attacks on Europe. At least 30 dead and hundreds injured in 2 attacks.
A truck plowing into a Berlin Christmas market. Multiple people reportedly killed.
Manchester, England, reports of an explosion at an Ariana Grande concert.
The French authorities have named the man who beheaded a teacher in a Paris suburb yesterday.
By 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. What are you going to do then? Actually, go post Sharia even then? We have families, we are making babies. You're not. Our population is going down the slump. One day we can have a Muslim majority nation here in Canada. Right in your face.
Look, Islam will enter every household. Whether you like it or not,
And you're going to be seeing more and more of these types of people who know that this society and the direction that it's going in is not the right direction, are going to be coming to Islam.
Community leaders have been speaking to the police as well because...
Yo, free Palestine! Free Palestine! Fuck India!
But I think, apologies for the language you're hearing, but a sense of the anger, I think you can hear there.
Yeah, Katie, I think Becky, I apologise. We need to leave you there and...
A, it will undermine Europe. B, it now, as we speak, produced fascism in Europe on a level that we've not seen before. And a move to the radical right in Europe that we've never seen before. Because people want to defend themselves against it.
You see, in 1990, a document was found in the US. It was published in May of 1991. This document is the English translation of an explanatory memorandum. That is, a memorandum that explains the aim of the Muslim Brotherhood in the US, a document that was published over 30 years ago. And this document clearly states that they came to the United States in order to turn the country into an Islamic one. I recommend that everyone reads this document, because this document, it was presented at the sentence of the Holy Land Foundation, which at first belonged to Hamas in the US. They were arrested for their activities involving terrorism in the organization. They had made a long-term plan, the members of the Muslim Brotherhood, to conquer the US from within. I believe they also plan to conquer Latin American countries from within. It may take a little more time, but there's a verse in the Quran that says, "I'm Allah mar sabirin." Allah is truly with those who are patient. It might take 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, doesn't matter. The future belongs to those who are patient, and they are very patient.
And that we stand with the Palestinian resistance and their heroic and brave action on October 7th. From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Hamas! Hamas!
This is also to be understood. Are they actually asking for advocating on behalf of the Palestinian rights? Or are they actually projecting their own frustration and their own problems, using Palestine as a vehicle, as a device?
So over the years, as I would meet Western governments, I began to separate between doing good and feeling good. So the problem is that we have too many people, whether it's college protesters or leaders of countries, that just want to feel good. So they say that they're fighting for a ceasefire. How will that happen? How will you enforce it? What does it mean? But they like to say those words. I can assure you, they're feeling really good. They're doing no good.
These people have no responsibility to what they're saying. If, God forbid, somebody would have listened to them, they would lose everything that is important to them.
Intifada revolution! Intifada revolution!
And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment, yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill.
Harvard University, to my surprise, produced something that is academically sound, the Harvard Public Opinion Poll. And I read it very, very carefully. Now, people between 18 and 24 in America are saying At the same time, Israel should be given to Hamas, 51%, okay? And Israel has a right to defend itself even in populated areas. So it's not only that they say stupid things, they also contradict themselves, okay? They simply don't know what they're talking about, okay?
Qatar buys the academics with the donations, the scholarship donations they make to American universities. It buys research centers, students, departments, paying salaries, holding events, and this is how they give support to universities, not only to researchers. They're spokespersons for Hamas. Qatar shelters the leaders of Hamas. Qatar supports terrorism, however they can, to dominate the West by means of its financial jihad with money, which is a valid type of jihad in their fight against the West.
Qatar, throughout the years, has built mosques in Europe, in the US, and in Canada, creating organizations, paying salaries. Qatar sponsors and finances people. So Qatar is buying all these people who take their money. This way, Qatar can demand that a center to which they make donations to writes articles that criticize or slander Israel. But they won't write against Qatar because Qatar sponsors them.
Since they believe that the West has no faith, that the West is materialistic, that the West is indulgent, they think Western culture can be destroyed by using the means through which the West is bound to give into them, by using all their money to infiltrate the academia, to infiltrate politics and the media. That's how Qatar it turns its strength and its resources into jihad. Immigration jihad, media jihad, political jihad, and all other types of activities against the West in general, and specifically Israel, because Qatar believes that Israel is nothing but an outpost of Western culture propaganda in the Middle East. That's what Qatar is doing in the West, so it can later destroy it.
So many people, first of all, have been influenced by propaganda regarding Palestine. They don't know that this is actually an ideology that is coming at the expense of individuality, not vice versa. And why? Because they don't know, they've never been there.
Democracy is something that belongs to the West. The United States tries to promote democracy throughout the world, and this is a democratic base in an ocean of Arab and Muslim dictatorships.
This current war is different from all other wars we've had so far. This is the ultimate war in the great struggle between good and evil.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wake-up call, a last request for attention to all the nations of the world to understand where the Middle East is going, which is not a place that many people in the world would like.
How is it possible to end the war? Is it possible that someday there is peace between us and Israel?
Yes. Come again?
Personally, I do not believe in peace between us and our Palestinian enemies. The best scenario I can imagine are some arrangements that might ensure some safety for our people.
True peace will only come when the world recognizes the Palestinian right to self-determination and supports the creation of an independent country. They have been fighting for it for over 70 years and will fight for 70 more years until the world recognizes their right to statehood.
What happened to the process between us and the Palestinians? Well, we've really tried. We did all we could, negotiations, territorial concessions, and even without requests. So I believe, generally speaking, that their leader, Yasser Arafat, failed in becoming a leader that would overcome terrorism. And that's how he killed any chance of peace. That's how he killed the idea of two states for two people. And then, on October 7th, Hamas buried this idea for good. And now we, the people of Israel, will never let this idea come back to life.
While there's occupation, there won't be peace. If you take my house, my home, my land, how can there be peace between us? How can we live in peace when you took my land, my money, my stuff? We can't. There's no peace. There can't be peace.
You have massacred me. You have massacred my children, my sons. You have massacred my daughters. I will never forgive you.
We won't trust any agreement that they make with us. Even if we retreat with no agreement, it ended with 122 victims per month in 2002. Either that or some barbaric attack involving rape, murder, and kidnapping of children, and decapitations and atrocities that have never been seen during this century. We just can't trust them.
I think the world entered into a contract with us in 1948, and the world should keep its word. The world should not treat Israel as something different, as to a standard which is impossible to achieve and undesirable to achieve. And the world should let us defend ourselves.
If I have to choose between existing, defending myself, and not being liked, and having my existence undermined, I don't have a dilemma, okay? I know exactly what I do. So people won't like me. Bad luck, okay? If we would have done what people liked, we would not have existed, okay? When we tried to be lovable to everybody, we lost a third of our people. So, I'm sorry, we tried it, doesn't work very well.
And I know that nobody's optimistic anymore, maybe, but I am. Because when I was a kid, in the 70s, we have a war with Egypt that we don't have anymore. We have with Jordan. We had with Dubai. We had with Morocco. And we don't have it. So in a way, there is a chance that even the Muslim and the Palestinian will take a side of coexistent in the world. And it's not just with us, the Jews.
This vicious cycle of violence must come to an end. And if we don't stop it, it's going to burn everything to ashes. And enough is enough, because so many children are suffering. Not only Jewish children, but also Arab children. And it's really our responsibility to break the cycle of violence, even though each one of us have to drop our interest in whatever it is, to break the cycle and allow a new generation to coexist together.
There's nothing I can do. I will never be able to trust the world as I used to trust before. I have lost my innocence for good. I will forever live with the thought of all my friends who were killed. And the matter is, what will I do with it?
So every dinner, every evening seems like it has no meaning, is meaningless.
Today, I would like to tell my son that I am very happy for the chance to have raised him for 31 and a half years. That I'm very happy with the amazing person that he became, his generosity, his willingness to help, and that I'm sure that everything that he did that day was out of all the love that he had for people. It's difficult. I miss him so much. It's so hard to accept this loss. But I'm sure that he did the right thing.
We would like to tell our son that we're very proud of him. He has no idea.
I would like to hug him again, more than anything. I'd like to say I'm sorry. I am sorry he had to die for us. I am sorry he had to fight this war. But I would really like to give him a hug, to hold him.
I think we'll always be united. It doesn't matter how.
I can't stop thinking of him, of everything we had. I'll never forget. He promised me a love story. From the start. And we did have a love story. To the greatest cliche. To the greatest cliche.
What have I learned from life? To thank God for every day I'm alive and for everything I have. This is the greatest message in life, to be positive and to thank God for everything we have, because we don't lack anything.